In solo leveling, after Jin-Woo defeats the Ant King, the system promptly sends a notification confirming his victory. A second message follows, informing him that he has gained 2 additional levels. Just then, Hunter Burke urgently calls out to Jin-Woo, his voice laced with concern. He's trying to tell him Hunter Cha is fading fast. Jin-Woo's thoughts race. Damn it, I've wasted too much time. I need to find a healer immediately. Shadow exchange isn't all-powerful, the countdown time still hasn't finished. Besides, I haven't even tested whether I can transport another person. Even if I use Kaisel to fly, by the time I return, Hunter Cha will already be dead. Does the Drawn Sword Guild have any surviving healers? I have to find a solution. Without wasting another second, Jin-Woo turns to the cameraman. His expression is sharp. Turn off the camera for a bit. The cameraman stares at him, momentarily frozen in confusion. Jin-Woo's gaze hardens. If you don't, I'll destroy it. Snapping out of his daze, the cameraman quickly shuts it off, not daring to hesitate. Jin-Woo commands all his shadow soldiers to search for the body of Hunter Byung-Gu. Before long, one of the high orcs from Jin-Woo's shadow emerges, carrying Byung-Gu's headless corpse. Jin-Woo, observing the remains, wonders if shadow extraction is even possible without a head. Meanwhile, Hunter Burke, confused and uneasy, questions Jin-Woo. What are you trying to do to Byung-Gu's body? Just then, a notification from the system appears before Jin-Woo. Shadow extraction is possible within the body. Jin-Woo exhales. How fortunate. This is the only way. Without hesitation, he issues the command, arise. A tense silence follows, then the system responds. Shadow extraction has failed. Jin-Woo's heart tightens. He issues the command again, his voice firmer, arise. Once more, the system delivers the same notification. Shadow extraction has failed. Jin-Woo grits his teeth. With my current shadow summon level, this should be easy, his thoughts race. Byung-Gu must have possessed an incredibly strong will against being summoned. A bitter realization settles in. It's almost as if he's telling me that resurrecting the dead is an unforgivable act. Still, Jin-Woo knows the living take precedence. His gaze sharpens. Arise. As the shadows swirl, beginning the extraction process, Hunter Back suddenly grabs Jin-Woo. What the hell are you doing to Byung-Gu? But then, his expression shifts. His grip loosens, his eyes widen in pure shock. In that moment, he realizes the truth. Jin-Woo's power is dominion over the dead. The summoning completes. Byung-Gu's shadow rises. Meanwhile, the scene shifts. 2 S-rank hunters watch from a distance, their expressions frozen in disbelief. Hunter Choi finally speaks, his voice uneasy. Don't tell me. Jin-Woo's ability allows him to wield the power of the dead. Byung-Gu's shadow emerges from his corpse, moving swiftly toward Hunter Cha. Without hesitation, it begins healing her. Hunter Back watches in shock as the shadow of his fallen friend restores Hunter Cha. Jin-Woo observes the scene, his expression thoughtful. I can already tell the kind of man he was in life, he remarks. He went straight to heal her on his own, without being ordered to. Such a warm soul. That thing is no longer Byung-Gu, Yoonho states firmly. Jin-Woo nods in agreement. Meanwhile, in the background, the cameraman still bewildered mutters to himself, his voice filled with disbelief. So, he can even summon the dead. Now I see why he told me to turn off the camera. Yoonho steps forward, placing a hand on Jin-Woo's shoulder. His voice is calm, but there's a plea in his tone. Please, don't force Byung-Gu back into battle. He's already gone. Let him rest. Jin-Woo glances at Yoonho, then slowly pushes his hand off his shoulder. That's twice now that you've grabbed my shoulder. But this time, it's not an order, it's a heartfelt request, Jin-Woo says. And I feel the same way as you, Burke Yoonho. With that, Jin-Woo steps toward the shadow and cancels the summon. For a brief moment, the 2 hunters exchange a look, one of mutual respect. A faint smile passes between them. As the shadow vanishes, Yoonho bows his head slightly. Thank you, Jin-Woo. With the battle concluding, the S-rank hunters begin making their way out of the nest. One of them carefully carries Hunter Cha, while Baek Yoonho lifts Byung-Gu's lifeless body. Outside, a helicopter waits for their departure. As they prepare to board, Jin-Woo turns to Burke Yoonho. I'm staying behind. Yoonho studies him for a moment, then nods. I understand. The raid isn't over yet. Jin-Woo glances toward the depths of the colony. I'll clear a path for you to pass safely. Summoning Kaisel, he turns back to Baek Yoonho. I'll see you later. With that, Jin-Woo gives the command. Go. Kaisel takes off, soaring through the flying ants. Meanwhile, Somewhere at sea, aboard a ship, a man trembles in fear. Minoru's face is pale as he mutters, "The monster, it was real." We couldn't even comprehend its power. His body shakes as memories of the battle flood his mind. The way Goto Ryuji was massacred, it was beyond anything he had ever witnessed. "This raid is a total failure," he declares, his voice barely above a whisper. "We can't win. No hunter could ever defeat a monster like that." Ryuji, who had watched the fierce battle between Jin-Woo and the Ant King, stood before Minoru. "Don't worry," he says. "The Jeju Island raid is over." Minoru's eyes widen in disbelief. "That monster is dead. Impossible." Ryuji replied, "We just received confirmation from the Korean command. There's no mistake." Despite delivering the news, Ryuji himself was in shock. A hunter stronger than Goto, the very idea seemed impossible. So, there was such a powerful hunter in Korea. He thought, he should be below Goto's level. And yet, I'm not sure anymore. What was his name again? Soon Jin-Woo. The scene shifts. A background character approaches Ryuji in a hurry, informing him that there are still many ants left, and worse, a swarm is heading their way. "There are still more of them?" Ryuji asks, his expression hardening. Meanwhile, in different parts of the battlefield, Jin-Woo's shadow soldiers continue their rampage, cutting down the remaining ants with brutal efficiency. Jin-Woo himself, standing amidst the carnage, reaches into his inventory. He pulls out a sword, the weapon he obtained after defeating the Demon Lord. As he grips it, a realization dawns on him. "I completely forgot about this sword." He swings it experimentally, feeling its raw power surge through him. "Keeping this locked away in my inventory would be a waste." With that thought, he resolves to put it to good use. The scene transitions to an apartment. A television screen flickers, displaying the intense battle between Jin-Woo and the Ant King. A man standing in the room turns toward another figure. "What do you think, Director?" We are then introduced to David Brannon, the director of the Hunter Management Bureau. He leans back slightly, rubbing his temple. "After watching this, it's already well past 4 a.m., Brannon mutters. "Did you come to my house at this hour just to ask for my thoughts? Or is it because you already know what I'm thinking?" The standing man responds. "A hunter capable of controlling multiple summoned creatures, such a rare ability. Leaving him in a small country like Korea would be a waste." Brannon exhales. He agrees but presses further. "And? Do you know anything else about him?" The man's expression darkens slightly. "The explosive incident at the Hunters Management Bureau 4 months ago. Sumail Hwan." Brannon listens intently as the man continues. "He was captured alive by an Orang hunter, James, inside an Orang gate that opened in the eastern US at the time. We weren't sure whether he was human or monster. But he insisted he was a hunter from Korea." The man's voice growing more serious. "After looking further into Jin-Woo, we discovered something. The man found in that gate, Sumail Hwan, is actually Jin-Woo's father." Brannon's eyes narrow. "If we use this information correctly, we might be able to bring Jin-Woo over to our side. As a US hunter, the implication is clear. Even if it meant straining relations between Korea and the US, perhaps even turning them into enemies, it would be worth it." Elsewhere, we see Jin-Woo standing alone, gripping his sword. He raises it slightly, resting the blade against his shoulder. A system notification appears before him. "Congratulations, you have reached level 100. Jin-Woo exhales. A small smirk plays at his lips. Finally, we see Jin-Woo standing before the lifeless corpse of the Ant King, the monster that once terrorized Jeju Island. Even in death, its presence was still revolting, its aura sickening to the core. Without hesitation, Jin-Woo raised his hand and uttered a single word. "Arise." At that moment, everything shifted. Darkness swallowed the battlefield. The world around him faded into an abyss, silent, empty, and endless. For a brief moment, Jin-Woo felt nothing. No sound, no presence, just void. Did it fail? Jin-Woo thought. Then suddenly light returned. The battlefield snapped back into focus. And before Jin-Woo, something moved. The Ant King's shadow emerged from its corpse. A towering monstrous figure wreathed in darkness, its crimson eyes burning like embers. Then it bowed. The very being that had slaughtered S-rank hunters without effort now knelt in absolute submission before its new master. Jin-Woo narrowed his eyes, his lips curling into a slight smirk. That's it for this chapter. If you're still breathing after this epic moment, hit that like button. And if you don't want to miss what happens next, you know what to do. Subscribe. See you in the next recap.